estate agent or not? The burning question for many folks happened to hit very close to home for my brother and I and my mom as we sold our family home. And she didn't, and we did. And of course, we were the ones sort of run the thing, so we picked one up. But why, let's look at this. Why use an agent?
Well, there's many reasons to use an agent. I've been on both sides. I've been an investor where I sold my own, and it was tough.
Right.
And now I'm a real estate broker. And just knowing what I know now, the liability that you subject yourself to going out on your own, especially in today's society where everyone's suing everyone for everything, just to have that extra protection, I would say if you throw away everything else, all the other amazing things that they can do for you, if you just take that one thing as a walkaway, that's amazing.
For example, when you say like a liability, what could come back and get you?
Oh my gosh, so much can come back. So someone can sue you for years after they bought the place. So you're gone, 10 years later, they can come back and say you didn't disclose something properly, and they can come after you. Now, if you had a realtor representing you, they would be that buffer. So they would kind of take over. But they're professionals, so they'll tell you, what you should expect. They're up on the latest laws. They will find the right price for you. It's those kind of things that you really should look to a professional to do instead of on your own.
We owned a house, and we were in there for the first rainy season that we had. Our living room practically fell down because they didn't tell us about the hole that was in the balcony. Oh, God. And it's like, really? All they had to do was tell us so we could repair it, but it would cause so much damage. They didn't disclose it.
And that's the thing. And that's where you get into trouble if you don't disclose.
Well, what about when you go to price a house? Is there any way that, should you price it yourself? If you could, where do you go to get that help, or is that advisable? Should you just let the professionals do it?
Well, 90% of people who look for homes start on the internet. So it's kind of like you're doing your own research anyway, but the websites that you can access are not up to date. So they're typically about 35% off or 6 to 12 months behind. Now the MLS, which is the multiple listing service, that's what we as realtors have to use, that is updated every 24 hours, federally mandated. So if you don't update that every 24 hours, you are in trouble. I'm subject to fines. Yeah, they make you stay on your game. So you could be looking at data that's really old, and you could be underselling your house.
Right. So one of the things that came down for us, and this is from my mom's perspective, was to say, look, there's a lot of money you hand over to a real estate agent because there's a percentage. So what are we going to balance that? If you're in that point where you go, I kind of want to do this, I understand the liability factor, well, how do you?
Well, as a seller, you do have to pay that commission, and it ranges about 5-6%, and it is negotiable. But as a buyer, it's free. So for buyers, I say, yay, free, take it. Take the free advice. For a seller, that's where you make your own choice. And I do support people who go out on their own and try to sell it. There's so many great websites now, like forsalebyowner.com and even realtor.com, which pushes you towards a realtor. They still give you some up-to-date
Let's go to
info.
that gray area where you said it's negotiable. How much negotiable?
Not much negotiable.
Not much.
Actually, let me start over. It is negotiable. You could go down to, say, 2%, but any other realtor looking at that's one of the first things you see is what your commission's going to be.
Yeah.
Realtors will skip over if it doesn't say 2.5% or 3%, which is half of the commission.
Yeah.
They typically won't show your house. So your house will sit on the market for a little bit longer. So it's a gamble.
Sure.
But you can.
Well,
I say pay the money. Gosh.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you don't have to do the headaches.
They have to do that. But if you want to sell your house on your own, what are the steps that you should be taking?
Well, the first thing, the glorious thing is you do save 5 or 6%. And first, you have to do your research. So
what do you look for? What are you looking for? Research for what?
Research, you want to research all the laws, and that's federal, state, and local. So it goes down to the local laws, like a wind advisory. I live in a place called Porter Ranch, and the wind is so strong there that I actually had to sign a document when I bought the house that I understand that there will be gale force winds over 100 miles an hour. So, and that's a local law.
How do we know to do that? I mean,
you have to do your
how
research.
do we know to do that? So
it's tough. Just look online, find the local laws, and then disclose to kind of go back to what we were saying. I met someone who said, I've been sued so many times that I disclose. He said, even if you know the neighbor 3 doors down plays trumpet on Sunday afternoon from 3 to 4, put it in the contract.
We had a situation where we were selling, and at the last moment, a longtime neighbor said, I think the drain that comes out from the drain tile is flooding and killing my shrubs. And we're like,
Gosh.
at the last minute, now we had to investigate that. We had to disclose that information, our realtor. So you find these little things that can come up and trip you up. And we were so glad that we had an agent to
Right.
handle it all.
So bottom line, we should have an agent. Is that
You should have an agent.
Okay.
You can do it on your own. But I will tell you that 89% of people do use a real estate agent. And those who don't, a lot of it is private parties. Like I'm giving the house to my daughter, my son, or it's within the family. So most of America right now is choosing realtors. But you can do it both ways.
Do you lose money if you try to do it yourself rather than having the, as far as negotiating the price of the house? Would you lose money if you don't have a professional helping you with it?
Well, I would think if you didn't know how to price your house right, you might be undervaluing it.
Or can we discuss where to go to get your pricing for your house? You said the internet, but
The internet, yes.
Aren't there people who do specifically that? People who assess your home?
There
What are they
are.
called?
Well, you have assessors, and they're typically way behind.
Oh,
But multiple listing service, the MLS, and now there is a public MLS site that you can go on to, and that'll tell you what houses sell for in your area.
I'm curious as the when you disclose stuff.
Yes.
That has to be there. Is there a point where you can begin just disclosing too much information? Or does the law? You want to give
You
as
want to give and
much
give.
information.
Even if you think you were going to lose the sale because
Sure.
of it, disclose, because you could lose everything. Let's
ha-
say you don't disclose something.
Yeah.
Like your mom's house, you're out here, and a few years later they come back and say, you didn't tell us about this, and we can prove it.
So you can get, I had some friends years ago purchased a house here in the Hollywood Hills, and they decided, even though the carpet was new in the downstairs, they were like, we're going to pull it up. And when they pulled it up, there was a crack running through the entire foundation that had been covered. So at that point, but they ended up in a long legal battle,
It
a
is.
situation because it wasn't disclosed.
Right. It's a long legal battle, and then how do you prove that they knew?
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't know.
Yeah.
You
So,
know,
it
so
should,
that-
everything should be in writing. If you're going to do
Everything.
this on your own, know that you're out on an adventure.
Yes.
And
Yes,
be-
get creative. Just be
Yeah.
as silly as you can. Just think of it, like the eagle flies at noon on Sundays. Like, just put it all in there because it's going to save you in the long run.
Perfect. Good.